Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2022 Product Roadmap webinar with Fortress Power and Sol-Ark. Up first, we have John Cromer, Application Engineer Manager for Fortress Power, and then we will have Dustin Douglas, Technical Sales Manager for Sol-Ark. Please feel free to ask any questions in the chat box, and there will be a Q&A at the end of the presentations. Take it away, John.
All right, welcome everyone. And again, we'll be doing Q&A at the end of the presentations, so that'll be at the end of ours and Sol-Ark. But first, let's start with a little bit of information about Fortress Power. We're headquartered in Southampton, Pennsylvania. It's just north of Philly. We have material distribution centers in California, Texas, and Florida. So not all of our product ships out of Pennsylvania. Most of it, in fact, ships off-site from these distribution centers, so that we can get material to your distributors quickly. Fortress is now a few years old. We have over 20,000 installs in the field, mostly targeting the United States and Central America, but we do have installations all over the place. And we support installations globally as well. We have a few supply agreements for some utility providers and transit providers. And we are distributed through, well, we'll get to that in just a minute. You'll recognize many of these names. These are our distribution partners. So whether it's CED or Bayware or Cranage, as well as some kind of online-only distributors, you will be able to find our batteries and products, as well as financing. With SunGauge, Mosaic, Sunlight, your popular solar financing options we do have available. Just a couple of things. Fortress Power, we really pride ourselves in technical support. We want to be involved on your design end, giving you quick thumbs up or thumbs downs on, on selling the project and pitching the project, designing the project. But we'll also provide support not only to the field installer, but also the end user. So with Sol-Ark in mind, we commonly will tell end users, hey, add our tech support team, tech support at fortresspower.com to the manager access within the PowerView monitoring system that allows our support technicians to just peek in on how the system is doing, review system settings. It's a very smooth process. So, oftentimes when it comes to a technical support issue, we can diagnose the problem even before you get out to the field, which substantially reduces the number of field visits for technical support issues or eliminates them in many cases too. So we'll talk more about our support website down a few slides. This program is really to get into our product roadmap for 2022. Right now, our flagship product is the eVault Max. The whole concept behind the eVault Max is that you can install a whole lot of battery capacity in a very short amount of time. So on many garage installations, it's as easy as unpacking the battery, rolling it into place, and installing one set of battery conductors between the inverter and the battery. So for single inverter, single battery installations, you can eliminate the bus bar entirely. Now, some things that you don't really see on a spec sheet is that the eVault Max battery management system follows automotive industry best practices. So this is not a MOSFET BMS. It's a high amperage contactor relayed with a digital processor and external fuses based BMS board that's capable of high ampacity. So not all battery BMSs are capable of going over 100 amps, and the smoke gets out of it when they do. So that is one thing that differentiates our product from many of our competitors. So it has a nice design. It's also the second generation of the eVault product line, and a lot of the second generation improvements have to go with installation ease and fleet management. The BMS is front accessible. The fuse, internal fuse, is front accessible. The bus bars are all front accessible, and that means that if you do have a service event in the field, you don't have to spend a lot of time on site taking the system apart to get to the part that you need to service. It's all front accessible, which is really great for fleet management because while most batteries are fine from a manufacturer perspective, we track our support case issues, and we know that fuses can blow, BMS units can fail. Sometimes the battery does get deep discharged. All of that stuff is easy to access to get on and off the site during a maintenance visit. We do have a LCD touchscreen display. Our battery, one thing that is unique to the eVault Max is that it is scalable up to 370 kilowatt hours at a 48 volt DC bus. So I don't really know of any other battery on the market that can support that. It's not just a matter of wiring a bunch of batteries in parallel. There's a lot of BMS communication development that's required to do that. And that means that this is a battery you can use not only on residential job sites, but can also scale into the small and mid-sized commercial projects, particularly those commercial projects with 208 volt three-phase. You're using string battery inverters like Sol-Ark for that. So we have a number of 9 Sol-Ark 20 eVault Max installations in the field already in operation to target that commercial, small commercial, mid-sized commercial space. The eVault Max, even all the way up to 20 units in parallel, will support closed loop communication with your name brand inverters, Sol-Ark being a very popular option for us. That is an improvement from the eVault Classic product line, which could only support up to 2 batteries in parallel with closed loop communication, or up to, I believe, 12 batteries in parallel in voltage-based control without that communication. Now with the eVault Max, we upgraded the BMS system to support a more robust battery to inverter communication platform, and that enables these batteries to actually go into the commercial marketplace with commercial battery sizes. So it is real fun to start jacking up your project dollars by selling a very large battery bank, and with the safety of 48 volts, the eVault Max can deliver that up to 370 kilowatt hours, commonly paired with 9 Sol-Arks, which will give you about 81 kW of battery output capacity at this time. That can change with Sol-Ark's product roadmap as well. The E-Flex battery is our more rugged battery. It's a little bit more compact. I call it the fighter because it packs a powerful punch. It has 5 kW of output for 5.4 kilowatt hour capacity storage. One kind of unique way that's used by many Sol-Ark installers is when you get into your minimum battery bank sizing. Typically with the eVault Max, it's 1 eVault Max per 1 Sol-Ark inverter. That's 18.5 kilowatt hours per Sol-Ark inverter. With the E-Flex, it's a 5 kW output, and so we, under warranty, allow 2 E-Flexes with 1 Sol-Ark 12K inverter that has the 9 kW battery inverter capacity. If you have 9 kW battery inverter capacity and 10 kW of battery output with its 5 kW output rating, that means it's more than adequate to supply the full power output rating of the Sol-Ark with just 5.4 kilowatt hours times 2, almost 11 kilowatt hours worth of battery capacity. So for customers who can't quite afford 18.5 kilowatt hours of capacity with 1 eVault Max, they'll instead install 2 E-Flexes. Or particularly when you're installing 2 Sol-Arks, we would normally say go with 2 eVault Maxes, and instead a common application is to go with 4 E-Flexes. And we even have a server rack that 4E-flexes can fit nicely in. If you're clever, you can land your two Sol-Ark inverters into this flex rack directly, and that means you have just one cabinet for your batteries, your two Sol-Arks on the wall going into this cabinet, and it's just very cost-effective when you're looking at your total system cost, total installation cost, way of delivering a high-caliber system with a minimum battery bank size. So sometimes that's a little difficult. Customers are budget constrained. They want to say, well, I want everything, but I only have a limited budget. You don't want to get too cheap on your battery quality. We'll provide some more details on that in a minute or two. As far as products you haven't seen before, one product that will be out this year is our E-Flex outdoor cabinet, also well priced for indoor use as well. This is kind of our all-in-one integrated solution where you can mount a Sol-Ark inverter inside of it. It is sized for both the Sol-Ark 12K and the 15K, and you can put them next to each other so that when you want to have larger inverter sizes, you can kind of parallel these units along with each other. Again, it's intended for both indoor and outdoor use. And so, this, I know many of you say the sooner we can get this on the market, the better, and we hear you loud and clear. So it's going to have just a high quality cabinet. It'll fit up to 4 E-flexes per inverter inside that cabinet. So there's yet to be named, but you'll see that come from us this year. What's coming in, hopefully the second quarter, into the second quarter this year, is our Guardian Gateway monitoring app. So it's the Guardian Hub, and the companion app is our online monitoring platform for our batteries. While you can get state of charge, battery temperature, voltage, and amperage within the PowerView monitoring system, the Guardian app will let you see greater level of details inside the battery. Also, finally enable those remote firmware updates and other kinds of relay control and feature sets. So right now we use our firmware update tool. If you're a Fortress installer, you don't have our firmware update tool, go to our support page and request one, because it's how we do our firmware updates and advanced diagnostics today. Soon, that will be a cloud-based solution. And initially, it's going to launch with the eVault Max and E-Flex. We do have a high voltage battery coming out. It's going to be a little bit longer down the road, so we are going to not spend too much time for this presentation on that, but that is coming up towards the end of the year. Another battery solution that we are very excited about is our first dive into 480 three-phase commercial ESS solution. So this is a 233 kilowatt hour battery on a 125 kilowatt inverter as the starting block. There are various ways to scale that up all the way to about 3.5 megawatt hours of capacity, again with a 10-year warranty. Now, this has already passed the UL 9540A testing. The UL 9540 listing itself is still pending. So we are very excited about this commercial solution. So we call it the eSpire. And it's just a high quality inverter, high quality cells, just like you would expect from a Fortress battery in a commercial form factor. So it will be able to do your peak demand management, load shifting for time of use, also off grid. And what some of the projects that we really like to see are your ultra luxury residential homes, as you might find in California. We have our first systems of this going into the field in the next couple of months. So, make sure to work closely with your sales reps on the lead time of this product. But we think that we actually, compared to the rest of the industry, will have very attractive lead times for this. And it's, it can be used and designed kind of like the solar design, where you have a transfer switch for the whole building up ahead of either the main panel or the backup panel that you are trying to protect, with just one input and output on the inverter. It's kind of unlike the residential 48 inverters, where there's a grid input and a load panel output. This is a high voltage battery system with one input and output and a transfer switch up ahead. So again, it's expandable up to 3.5 megawatt hours. Kind of the ratio is 3 of the 233 kilowatt hour battery packs up to 1 inverter, and then we expand that to 5 inverters. So it's up to a 6.25 kilowatt output. There's a range of that. You could have 1 battery pack per inverter up to 5 inverters, or up to 3 battery packs per inverter up to 5 inverters. So if you're interested in that, start talking to your sales reps, or go to our support page, get on our Discord channel, and start talking to our technical support team about your technical questions for this system. Now I want to get into a little bit on quality. So battery quality is something that is not readily apparent on a spec sheet. So it's important that as installers, if you want to sell high-end battery systems, that you at least begin to understand that there are quality differences between kilowatt hour of lithium iron phosphate from provider A and a kilowatt hour of lithium iron phosphate from provider B. And to some extent, you solve this by buying from big brand name providers who have companies to back up their warranties, and not just through a data sheet analysis. So in other words, not all lithium iron phosphate batteries are the same. Even within the same manufacturer selling the same lithium iron phosphate cells, there are differences in cells quality. So not even just saying, oh, we buy from this OEM or that OEM is good enough when it comes to split cell quality. And what that means for the end user, for the installer making the recommendation, is it comes down to trust of the battery provider. You have to trust the provider when it comes to cell quality. And at least at Fortress, what that means is you can get in touch with us. You can call us, you can email us, you can talk with our technical support team. We're a manufacturer who picks up the phone. So we're gonna talk about some of that in a couple of slides. But the point is that not all lithium battery cells are the same, even if they have the same cell chemistry. There are a couple of different types of lithium battery cells, from pouch cells to cylindrical cells to prismatic cells. Fortress batteries are prismatic cells. So in a way, prismatic cells are similar to pouch, except a step up in production quality. They have a much more durable casing around them. Whereas cylindrical cells, the reason why cylindrical cells are also popular is that they're very easy to manufacture. And for general purpose applications where you're making a battery cell to go into a wide variety of devices, cylindrical is cheaper and faster to scale. To have a good, cost-effective prismatic cell in a battery pack, it's really custom built for a particular product line. And so, we custom build our prismatic cells for our eVault Max product line, for our eFlex product line. And without that scale, you can't deliver a cost-effective prismatic cell. But we all know in the industry, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Things that are expensive, at least material costs, are generally higher quality than things that are cheap. And the key to a high quality lithium iron phosphate battery is being able to deliver a prismatic cell in a price that's competitive against cylindrical. And pouch is generally recognized as the least quality of the group. And so in terms of thermal stability, durability, and longevity, and simplicity, and these are ways to describe values of cells and cell packs, but there's a lot of variables that go into those adjectives. Some would be like the size of the cell itself. You know, if you have larger cells, which prismatic can deliver over cylindrical, you have fewer failure points within the battery pack. That means you have less of a chance at dead cells and less of a chance of a battery RMA. The trick, again, is being able to deliver a quality prismatic cell at an affordable price, which I think Fortress does quite well. So moving on a little bit further in the interest of time, getting to a little bit more data. Here is some data that comes out of our manufacturing knowledge. This is the same battery cell supplier providing cells to the automotive industry and then providing cells to the telecom industry. So both of these cells are rated for a 1C discharge rate and then cycled to a 90% depth of discharge. And the cells that are going to the automotive industry are a higher quality than the cells going to the telecom industry. So again, both are lithium iron phosphate cells coming from the same cell OEM, but the OEM is sorting the cells and giving the higher quality cells to the automotive industry, the lower quality cells to the telecom industry. Both cells have 1C ratings. Both cells have similar performance characteristics. But there is a kind of a tier 1 and a tier 2 class of otherwise equivalent cells. So it's very important that your manufacturer is implementing quality control on the cell OEM to make sure that you're picking the very best cells. That is something that Fortress does as an international manufacturer with employees, not just in the US, but on the other side of the ocean as well. Some other notes on that C rating, because that is one spec that we're seeing is a differentiator in the industry, is how quickly can you charge and discharge your battery. Of course, there is a limit. A battery that has a 1C rating that is discharged fully over the course of 1 hour, if you were actually to use it at that spec, then you would have 2 hours worth of storage. So in general, residential and commercial solar batteries, whether or not they're for backup or for other applications, don't need to be run at a 1C rating, even if the battery is capable of being run at a 1C rating. And no matter how you cut it, if you have a battery that's rated for a 1C rating and you only run it at a C/2 rating, which is a 2-hour discharge rate instead of a 1-hour discharge rate for a full discharge, the battery that is discharged at the C/2 rating with lithium iron phosphate chemistry will last longer. And so what does that mean with regard to the Sol-Ark? Well, maybe you want to take a look at your programmable settings and make sure that the full capability of the Sol-Ark is there for power outages, but with regard to charging the battery or even selling back to the grid via discharge, if it makes sense to sell back or charge at a slower rate, those clients who really like to fine-tune their systems will see a battery that lasts beyond the product warranty if they dial the system back a little. Again, it's a site-specific choice. Some customers want to use the full capability. Other customers really want to fine-tune for longevity. So what it really comes down to is heat. No matter how you cut it, even if the battery is rated for 1C, it's going to generate more heat when it's discharged at a faster rate rather than at a slower rate, and that will ultimately lead to cell degradation. So at any rate, if it's a 2 E-Flex installation with 1 Sol-Ark, it is possible to configure the settings so that the batteries charge at a slower rate, but still can discharge at the fastest rate possible during a power outage. Maybe you want to look at your grid cell back and say, hey, if I have a 5-hour window for time of use arbitrage, I don't need to sell back at the 1C rate. I can sell back at C/2 or even slower than that if I'm really interested in having a battery that will last over a decade. Finally, there are impacts on depth of discharge with lithium iron phosphate batteries, just like there are with lead acid. Now, what I like to say is all the technical specifications relevant to the lead acid industry have been compressed when it comes to lithium iron phosphate. Lead acid is really a 6-hour or 10-hour or 20-hour discharge rate battery. They even rate them at 100 hours. Lithium iron phosphate is generally rated at a 2-hour discharge rate, sometimes a 1-hour discharge rate. So our scale has been compressed a bit. But as far as daily cycling of the battery goes, no matter what the cycle warranty or the specification of the battery is, a shallower depth of discharge will give you more cycles and a longer life than a deeper depth of discharge. We feel the appropriate compromise in your daily cycling, because again, you're buying the batteries for some economic motivation and some backup motivation. So what's the right balance between fully discharging your battery and gaining the economics, or retaining some reserve capacity and being prepared for power outages at all times of day? To some extent, those are contradictory messages. And 80% depth of discharge, we feel like, is the right compromise between daily cycling and longevity when it comes to Fortress batteries. So under our warranty, we allow you to discharge the battery 100%. So if the client accidentally, deep discharges their battery and goes all the way down to 0, we're not voiding the warranty if that happens once or twice or 3 times, or even, a dozen times over the course of the year as the customer kind of locks into how to use their battery. However, the difference is if you are designing your battery to be a daily 100% depth of discharge, such as a peak demand management application, that will, reduce the battery life. And in those peak demand management applications, we want to make sure that you're leaving a 20% reserve in your battery so that you get the full 10-year product warranty. So occasional discharges down to 100% are fine, but just as a matter of warranty and also as a matter of customer satisfaction, because all these customers want their batteries to last a long time. Going down to 80% on the day-to-day basis is the way to go, regardless of whether or not the battery says on the data sheet only use 80% or only use 100%. I know one of our competitors says you get unlimited partial cycles, to kind of imply that, hey, these batteries are going to be outlasting the 10-year warranty on their data sheets. So, how you use the battery will govern how long the battery lasts beyond that. So long story short, while the batteries can do rapid discharging and deep discharging, staying within, normal operating parameters is appropriate for longevity. If you have any questions with that, or if what's most likely to happen is you're going to have customers who have questions about that, and you're just tired of answering your customers' technology questions. That's why we created our Discord chat group, which you can find on our support page at fortresspower.com/support to go to. Installers can get support from us with real-time text chat while they're in the field. End users can get support directly from our support technicians in real-time text chat as the system is commissioned and beyond, so that they can get some of their fine-tuning questions delivered. I'd also like to say before we pass it off that we have updated our Sol-Ark inverter guide. So you just go to our website, under our support tab, we have our inverter guides. Go to the Sol-Ark inverter guide. Now it acts more as a field installation manual specifically for Sol-Ark installations. So, yes, it's good to read the product manual. Yes, it's good to read the manual that comes with the battery. But if you want the document that is most up to date with the latest and greatest of instruction based on field feedback from the field, I would go to our website, go to the inverter guide section on our website, look at that Sol-Ark inverter guide, read through it before you get out to site on your first Sol-Ark installations, and that way you won't get surprised by things like communication cables or firmware update processes when you're there. With that, I will stick around for questions, but I'm going to pass it over to Dustin for now so that he can tell us a little bit more about the product roadmap for Sol-Ark.
Yeah, thank you, John. I really do appreciate that. So I'll go ahead and see if I can share my screen here real quick. Let's see. Is that everybody able to see my screen, or is it still not popped up yet?
I can see it.
Okay, let me go to, all right. So it should be popping up on your screen. So our biggest thing this year, especially, we're coming out with a few different products that we think are going to be very powerful when looking at the energy market. And we're very gracious to happen to have this partnership with Fortress. And thank you, John, for kind of making that introduction. So our main goal here is really providing whole home backup with 15 kilowatts and roughly 25 kilowatt hours of ESS, a smart load management device, and then the optional Sol-Ark microinverters. So we are venturing off into different spaces in order to, really help those customers and really help provide a solution that fits their needs, all while maintaining the cost effectiveness that we really want to have as we look forward into the future. So our core purpose here at Sol-Ark is really powering families through life. That is our go-to kind of mantra that we always stick by. We really focus on providing reliable, innovative, affordable solar storage solutions for families and their businesses. At the end of the day, we understand, we don't want to have to miss anything in terms of our daily lives. So really having a product that's reliable and innovative in the sense that you can have different items attached to it, flexibility, and also making it affordable. That's always our main goal in providing, to our customers. So with that being said, we're not perfect. We do understand that, and we always try hard to improve. And what you're showing on the screen now is our Energy Sage kind of review and rating. So you will see here, we take our customer support as high up as anything else that we have going on, and you'll see our reviews kind of reflect that. We do have a 5-star review, and those are all organic. We do not go to our customers saying, "Hey, please give us a 5-star review." We ask that the customer just gives us their honest opinion, and that allows us to really look at how our system functions and how they fit in the different areas and really help formulate the best game plan when designing a product that will fit just about everybody's needs. Our biggest goal is to make sure we can say yes to any project that you might have, and being able to say yes is always very important because we always like the fact that you don't have to call multiple different manufacturers. John was going over the support team that they have, and we really highlight them and definitely grateful for their help, especially when it comes to supporting communications, sizing, and everything like that. But we also have our own 7-day support team as well. So if you have problems or if you have issues or if you're running into kind of some bumps in the road, give us a call. Our 7-day-a-week tech support is awesome. We're growing that team every day and trying to make it even easier for people to get the answers right out of the gate. They're not having to wait, schedule appointments, or have any trouble getting the system running as they want it to. So with that being said, typical ESS and install, you're kind of looking, and this is actually an install we recently just have. I'm sorry if the picture is not very large enough, but what you would actually see here is 6 of the Sol-Ark 12Ks, which is our kind of what I call our Swiss Army knife inverter that we offer. And then you also have 185 kilowatt hours worth of the eVault. And this is a very large scaled system, and it does have that application to the sense that you can do an entire home backup. And we wanted to take a look at this and understand that, yes, 6 12Ks is a lot. That's a lot of financing and things like that the customer must have to go through. And we wanted to make that bill of materials a lot smaller. So what we did is we helped look at designing a newer, larger inverter that has a lot of great features, which I'll go through in just a second. But it has that ability to really shorten shorten the install time, shorten the bill of materials that you have to use. And then also it shortens any type of issues or troubleshooting that you might have because you have less parts to deal with. And that's a very important feature, especially for installers, because we like to mitigate as many truck rolls as possible. We don't like truck rolls, and our onboard, our 7-day-a-week tech support and our built-in monitoring platform is always helpful. And we're excited to have that Guardian device that John was mentioning earlier, because that's only going to give the installer and the customer more customization, more capabilities to really troubleshoot their systems without having to involve an installer to come out and really have to troubleshoot the situation. So just to break down, I'm sure if you are familiar with, I'm just going to do a little quick overview over our 12K. So our 12K does have 63 amps worth of grid bypass built into it. There are 3 AC breakers, as you would see in the user area. It does put out 9 kilowatts of AC, and then also simultaneously 3,000 watts to the battery. So really adding that capability for customers and homeowners to utilize their entire array and help charge the batteries while still maintaining the lifestyle they have inside their home, and not being limited to, what they can run or having problems with charging the batteries or anything like that, because we want to shorten that time period as much as possible. There are two built-in MPPT charge controllers, each of them rated for 20 amps. You can land up to 4 physical strings built into it, which is very flexible. But we did take a look at this and understand, being up here in the Northern Hemisphere and especially all across the world, we wanted to add more flexibility and more charging capabilities with the amount of solar that you have attached to the system. So we are 48 volts battery nominal, 185 amps continuous charge and discharge. And again, going back to John's kind of point, saying it limits the amount of time by doing it charging at 1C rather than half. And it really helps out with shortening that time period, so that way you can get the most out of the AC part of the system. And again, that has been increased and also being pushed even further whenever we go to our newer products. And then adding the additional flexibility to the system, we can also do 9.6 worth of AC coupling. We can also do a generator input as well. So we can do up to 12 kilowatts of pass-through from a generator on the specific breaker built inside the inverter, which adds that extra capabilities. You don't have to piece together any more parts. You get all of that right out of the gate. A single 12K can support 120/240 split phase, 120/208 3-phase, and 220-volt single phase. So you don't have to piece together different SKUs or have different products in your lineup just to meet the different projects that you might have coming up. All of that is encased into one system, and it has a bunch of different capabilities and features that really make it a feasible product line for homeowners and installers. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and break down the new 15K. The 15K is kind of the breakthrough product that we have been talking about. I'm sure everybody's kind of heard some unicorn thoughts about it as well. A lot of that is being finalized. It will be later this quarter as far as availability. But the biggest thing, and I do want to highlight a lot of the different features, the first one being the 200 amp grid bypass. So roughly there's about 90 million homes across the US only that have a 200 amp service. That being said, you can take your entire home panel, land it on the output of the Sol-Ark, and you can put the grid, lines going into the grid inputs on it, and that's it. There's no need for a critical loads panel. There's no need to break it down. There's no requirement in order for the system to, have limited access to the loads that you want to run. You can have access to everything inside your home and manage appropriately for what you're wanting to do. It is 15 kilowatts of AC output and then 12 kilowatts off battery alone. So at nighttime, you do get about 12 kilowatts, which is about 50 amps, and then it's about 60 amps with the PV involved. So really highlighted that extra power output, because we do understand, there are certain items, in-rush things that happen as well that we want to be capable of powering. Again, don't really limiting the customer or the homeowner to really what they can run and not having to pick and choose. They can really utilize their entire house. One of the things I do want to point out as well is this does have up to 100 amps of peak performance as well. So over 24 kilowatts of peak output as well. So really helping out with those higher inductive loads, air conditioners, pumps, things of that nature that really need that inrush to help power and get them going. We do have 3 built-in MPPT charge controllers, each of them rated for 26 amps each. So we could do up to 17 kilowatts of DC power into the MPPTs. And having the 3 dedicated charge controllers is always beneficial, because again, it allows us to have different facing arrays, and you can have a charge controller dedicated to that direction and not having to mix and match and having, kind of lower performance of the production by having them mixing on the same MPPT. So very customizable, very powerful in that sense. We've also increased the output from the batteries to 285 amps continuous. We do have 2 breakers built inside that as well. So if you have different battery banks or different types of links or anything like that, you can always input that into our 2 different breakers on that system. And that allows us to have that extra flexibility on the inputs for not only the batteries, but also the load outputs as well. We could also do up to 19.2 kilowatts of AC coupling, and we could also do up to 100 amps of generator input as well. So really adding, again, that extra flexibility. We've had this since our 8K flagship model, but we've only looked at it, increased it, and made it even better when looking at the 15K. So that being said, we do have a kind of a simple single line drawing of what it would look like in a typical scenario with a 200 amp service. So here you have the 15K inverter. You have it paired up with the Fortress eVault. We do also have 20 plus battery partners as well that do have closed loop communications with us. So again, kind of getting that agnostic capabilities of choosing the battery that fits the needs, whether that's the eFlex, the eVault, or any of the other batteries that we list on our website. You're more than happy to use those with them. You can use lead acid as well. We are very customizable in that sense because we do offer an EMP hardened product as well, which is kind of a standard, a standoff from a lot of our competitors because again, we always try to be mindful of the future and what is to come. So here in this diagram, you have the 15K connected to the main panel. You have the grid via a 200 amp fusible disconnect to meet NEC code. And then you have the smart load. Those 3 items, those 4 items is really all that you need in order to suffice a 200 amp service, allowing you to have that customization and feasibility in the event of an install and allowing you to do more installs, which again is always a plus without having the hassle of dealing with multiple pieces of equipment. So just to kind of break it down a little bit more, I kind of went over the 15K and its capabilities. I'm also going to talk about the Smart Load 14. This is Sol-Ark's energy management device that we have developed and made. It has 14 individual circuits that are each rated at 100 amps. There's also built-in communications. You can do local monitoring, you can do Wi-Fi, you can do CAN bus, OpenADR, all of that compliances as we look at different markets, especially in the demand response market as well, as that's starting to become very popular. It does work in an on and off grid. It is an outdoor rated. It has our built-in 4 millisecond switchover time or transfer time. And that is very awesome and very particular to the Sol-Ark lineup because we do want to make sure the system is powering the loads in such a lightning speed. It's in the same sine wave. That way you don't lose any kind of capabilities throughout your home and you're able to move on with your daily lives without having to reset your clocks or your microwave or anything like that. The smart load device is stackable up to 15 in parallel. So again, if you have larger kind of projects that need that extra control, by all means, you can stack as many up to 15, allowing you to have quite a bit of control and customization. And a few things that I do want to point out, one thing about this as well is the smart load does have built-in AI. So after about 14 days, this device will actually give the homeowner a notification letting them know, hey, these are the recommended settings that we would say for this system. And that allows the customer to optimize their priorities and everything as they're setting them up for these loads. And that is a very powerful feature because we do understand at the end of the day, we all have daily lives, we all have different things going on, and we don't necessarily have the time to really dive into details and really read everything to the fullest extent and really optimize it as well as you can. So this allows the device to actually work for you and allows the device to actually give you the best recommendations to move forward to make sure that your system is functioning and being as powerful as it can be. It is reliable in the sense that it does have dual power supplies as well. You do not have to use this with a Sol-Ark inverter. This is not a proprietary device that you have to use it with the Sol-Ark lineup. It is something that you can utilize with any other inverter ESS system on the market. You don't even have to use an ESS system. You can use a generator or some other device as well that you can really use to optimize the loads. And it adds that extra flexibility for the customer to really limit how much they're having to spend. That way they can control their loads inside their home in a much rather timely fashion and a lot more effective fashion as well. Each of these circuits are, individually CT'd as well, so you will get lifetime monitoring as well as bypassing as well. So if you have a grid source or something else coming into it, if you wanted to run it through the grid rather than through the Sol-Ark, by all means, you can flip a switch that's on each circuit, and that'll run as intended. through the power source that you have it connected to. So again, a very powerful unit. We do believe this is going to be a staple point in the industry because again, we do see the different markets and the different applications for this, and having that customization and flexibility is really only going to add that extra benefit as you look at moving forward into your projects and really adding it to your lineup. So just to kind of give a simple breakdown here real quick, we do have the Smart Load 14 going in at about a little bit over $33,000, which comparatively to a lot of the other ones on the market is relatively, competitive, and it adds a lot more features. So here we do have a little bit of a breakdown of the different communications, the transfer speeds, the ease of installation, and then online monitoring, and then also, adding the additional peak shaving and time of use. So we always try to be transparent. All of this information is something either we have tested ourselves or we have spoken to these manufacturers directly, and we will change these if they have to be changed. We want to be transparent in any and all information we perceive and put on our website, because we always want to give the best information to our installers and our homeowners so they can make the best choice that fits their needs. So like I mentioned earlier, the Smart Load device can be used with any ESS system of your choice. It does not have to be used with us. However, we do believe this tied in with our 15K will be kind of hard to compare. So that way you're going to have full capabilities, whole home backup, which again, as we see that trend ever so growing in this market, it's only going to be a really staple product line that is going to be easy to install and very cost effective as well. So again, here's just a kind of another little breakdown overview. With the 15K, we have the transfer, the 200 amp disconnect switch built in, Smart Load device under the main panel, and that's it. There's really no other pieces to the puzzle other than, putting these 3 or 4 different pieces in there. So again, adding that extra flexibility, making it sure that we're, 50% more powerful, 8% more efficient, 100% more versatility, 25,000% faster in UPS switching, and then lower cost and faster install. So just to kind of give a breakdown in terms of the cost. So here I have kind of the breakdown of what the 12K, the 15K, the Smart Load, and then also our micros, which I'll be getting to in just a second. This eliminates the need for critical loads and everything like that. You can use either the 12K or the 15 kilowatt, but really adding that load management really drives that lower cost down and really eliminating the amount of ESS equipment that you might need, and also the amount of battery that you might need, because we're able to control and manage it in a better fashion. So just some examples down below. We do have like the 12 kilowatt with 20 kilowatt hours worth of battery. You're looking at about $2.09 during nighttime and daytime. But if we add the Smart Load 14, that's going to drop it down to $1.05 per watt, and that's very, very, very amazing in the sense that we're already cutting it down in half in the price per watt, and really helping get that return on the investment and really shortening that time period for the homeowner. And then subsequently, you have the same thing kind of for the 15K, and with the 15K with the Smart Load, again, really driving down that cost so that way we can utilize it in the best effective manner as possible. So jumping into the micros, we are coming out with our own lineup of micros, which we do believe are going to be a really awesome feature, because one, you do not have to, it really helps with adding the AC output for the entire ESS system without really having to add an entire unit to itself. So in the past, we had the 12K, and in order to increase the output, you'd have to stack another 12K. So with our micro lineup, what you can do is you can have about 30% less cost, because you can add the panels with our micros, and that'll not only be increasing the AC output that you would have during the daytime and then also during grid-tied applications, but we can also utilize those devices in an off-grid application to help really power those loads throughout the entire home and really help drive that cost lower down. So we do have 2 different kinds. We have the M1000, which is a 2-channel. We also have the M2000, which is a 4-channel. Each of them channels are rated for 500 watts, so that way we can get the 1,000 and 2,000 watt output. And then, the cabling and cost is all included. So we looked at our competitors and we saw how there was a lot of the times you had to buy additional equipment, you had to buy different lengths of cable in order to hook them up. We're providing that right out of the gate, just like what we do with our hybrid inverters. And that really helps out with the installer. They're not having to wait. They're not having to add different items or stock different things. You buy this unit, you're getting the best out of the gate performance, included. There is no cost for an internet gateway. We do not, all the gateway capabilities is already built into the micro as well. So there is no additional piece of equipment that needs to go on the outside of the home or really any type of, point of communication for these micros to talk to each other. All of that is built into the micro. So again, lowering that install time and then also lowering the cost because you don't have that additional equipment. So here we do have, kind of a total cost with the micros. Here, we're about 31 cents per watt on the M2000. We're also about 40 cents per watt on the M1000. So really, again, trying to be competitive as we see the market trending and really trying to add a different lineup to be flexible with your customers. Yeah. So here, just a kind of little bit of breakdown. Obviously, I'm sure people are pretty familiar with this, but we have the PV modules going to the micros. Here we have the power line communication with the optional gateway, which again, all of that is built in. We do have rapid shutdown capabilities built into that as well. And then you have your AC distribution going to your loads and then also going to the grid. All of this is wireless in the sense that all of this can communicate. You're going to have the ability to view each of these panels, how much they're producing, what they're capable of producing, and really monitor their system in the best way forward. So that way you can make a better decision and also be able to make sure the system is performing to its fullest capabilities. So again, here's just like a little breakdown of the spec sheets between the M1000s and the M2000s. We will be posting all of this information to our website in the near future. These will be available later this year and probably in the middle of Q2, maybe a little bit sooner, depending on certifications and things of that nature. But nevertheless, we are moving as fast as we can to get these available to make sure we can start, providing these for your customers and start looking at the design phases for your projects. So here we have the Sol-Ark 15K ESS with the smart load management. Again, just a little bit of a breakdown of the costs and everything that you would see. So we're really, again, trying to be very effective in this market in the sense that we are always mindful of the pocketbooks of our homeowners and customers, and especially our installers. If we can drive that cost to a lower fashion and make it feasible and more understandable with less time to install, less equipment to actually acquire, that's always the biggest goal, because again, our two things we try to focus on here: we try to provide world-class technical support and best-in-class technology. And I believe that is something that we have been kind of in the leading front of for the last few years, especially now that we're developing products that are, venturing off into different areas. So just to kind of put in perspective here, we have the Sol-Ark 15K. Number one in engineering support, 50% more power, 60% more battery life, 8% more efficient, similar cost with 120% more value. And this tied in with the LFP batteries, especially the lineups from Fortress with their tier 1 prismatic cells, is always helpful because that gives us that prolonged lifespan on the battery life and really helps you utilize the batteries in a more effective manner and really driving that cost lower over time because you're able to use it without having to add or switch them out or really replace the batteries, just like with our competitors. And again, we're already kind of looking at a similar price point with a ton of different features, whereas with these, you typically have to stack multiples, or you would have to stack, maybe 3 or 4 of these to reach the same output capabilities. So just to kind of give you a breakdown again, here is our comparison chart. If you've ever been to our website, we are very happy to have this. We call this our Christmas tree chart. So everything that you see in green is something that we take a look at, and we do agree that it is a device that is leading in the industry. Anything in red, we do see that it's kind of being lacking, or there's at least some room for growth. And then anything in white is kind of standard as far as it goes. So we are updating our website to add all of our different hybrid inverters. We do have our 12K, our 8K, our 5K, and then our new 15K coming out. And so again, we always try to be transparent in our comparisons. Either we do our testing ourselves or we talk to the manufacturer and we get the information directly from them. We do not typically go off spec sheets because we understand real application and spec sheets and things like that are always, kind of two different things, and we always want to be as upfront and informational as possible. So here we have the 15K kind of going through its comparison between a lot of the main ones on the market. We have the entire home transfer switch with the all-in-one hybrid. That tied in with our 14-channel 100-amp load management device. The Smart Load is almost unbeatable in comparison to the others because, again, we have that greater AC output. It's less equipment that you have to purchase, and it also gives you all the flexibility for AC coupling, generator, connections, and flexibility on the PV and batteries. So again, being agnostic in that sense and making sure that we're able to, say yes to really any type of project on the market. We do work with, C&I projects, residential projects, anything that you can think of, we say yes to. So here, just to kind of give you a microinverter comparison, here we have the M1000s and the M2000s against a lot of the different ones on the market. Again, trying to be cost effective in the sense by having a greater output, and then also being flexible for the price per watt, because again, we like to keep things low. Especially here in Texas, we do two things really well. We drive the industry in terms of developing products that we believe is going to be awesome. And especially right now, trying to stay warm as we have a giant snowstorm that just came in through the night. So, we always try to make sure we're developing and devising a perfect product that can fit just about any situation. So here we actually do here. I'm going to go through two more slides because I know we have about 5 minutes or so, but we will be happy to answer any questions. I know John said he's going to be online for answering the questions, and I will be as well. So by all means, there is a chat. If you have questions, please more than happy to drop those in the chat so that way we can answer them and get your questions answered. But here we do have a calculator on our website, and I know if you've used it, a lot of people have reached out asking what that Smart Load ESS kind of section is about. And here we are happy to kind of tell you, this is what it is regarding to. So adding the Smart Load, SL14 device really drives that lower cost because you don't have to size the battery over what is, necessary, and you do not have to have as much inverter capabilities as well because we're able to manage and optimize the loads in an effective manner to make sure that you are utilizing it in the best way forward for your customers. Highly recommend to take a look at our calculator, especially as you see in this information firsthand. It allows you to pick and choose some of the most common pieces of equipment on the market, and it will give you a live kind of informational breakdown of the different items that is recommended to meet that need. So here we have a backup, kind of a medium-sized backup with a medium load management. And here we're taking a look at, electric water heater, the dryer, the wall oven, electric range, and a car charger. So here are the kind of the major loads that need to be considered and be managed with the Smart Load device. So that way you're not having to oversize the equipment past what it is necessarily needed. And then the backup here is a whole home with load management being kind of medium as well. So here we're adding a little bit more to it as well. So we have the car charger, the wall oven, the dryer, electric water heater, and everything, but we're also adding an electric furnace fan and a central AC. So being here in Texas, especially in the summertime, we like our air conditioner, we like to stay cool, and being able to manage that effectively and efficiently is always going to be an amazing, because again, it drives that cost for the total equipment down, and it really makes it easy for the homeowner to look at it and say, hey, this is feasible, and really helps out with their daily lives when the grid fails. And then last but not least, here we have the backup for the whole home with Load Management Max. And here you're going to see really where the cost breakdown really makes a sense, as we're able to, compare that to about 85, 86 kilowatts of battery backup needed to only about 49.3 kilowatts of battery backup needed. And again, if we can lower that cost, lower that equipment need, and really use it effectively, so that way they're not having to, break the bank, and really have that system that is feasible for their entire home, is always our go-to as we look forward. So with that being said, thank you all. Like I said, my name is Dustin. I'm the tech sales manager. I know we have some questions probably popping up over the chat, but I am more than happy to share anything. Obviously, if there's any application questions, by all means, please let us know. We're always happy to get those squared away for you. So thank you for the opportunity to show those, and we are looking forward to working with you further.
All right, I'm going to give Dustin a chance to review some of the questions. Dustin, I left the answers blank to the ones that are more Sol-Ark specific. And so just give him a moment to look those over. During Dustin's presentation, I did kind of think about some things that I neglected to mention that are new to the eVault Max and the eFlex. While it won't show up on the spec sheet, the eVault Max is being expanded to offer the 12 kW of power output for the Sol-Ark inverter in closed loop. So when they go to their new inverter product line, we will still maintain the 1 battery to 1 inverter ratio for the eVault Max versus the Sol-Ark inverter. Likewise with the eFlex, the update is that we are, and this should be applied to eFlexes that are now leaving the factory gate, have upgraded terminal caps on those eFlexes for outdoor installations. It will be a more robust covering for the eFlex terminal caps. Likewise, the Flex Rack has an update to announce too. The Flex Rack is now from the factory gate shipping with the battery cables for the eFlex to the bus bar included. So, I mean, what that means is for your installations where you're buying from the distributors right now, there's a good chance that they're still the version that does not have the battery cables included. However, that will change in the very near future as the inventory clears off the shelf. Last but not least, the eVault Max will have a communication cable included for the Sol-Ark, so you'll no longer need to make or buy the custom-made communication cables. The eFlex won't, because it is so easy to make the eFlex communication cable, and that's in our inverter guide that we didn't put it in to the packaging. But it is more difficult to make the Sol-Ark communication cable, and that will now have a custom cable included with it.
John, so sorry.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm not able to see the questions. I'm not sure if I'm looking in the wrong area, but happy to start sending some answers to them.
All right. Can you see them now in the question area? Otherwise, I'll just lob them your way over the air.
Oh, okay.
So
I think I might have missed it.
Okay, I'll give you some couple of minutes to read over some of the questions. I'm going to go through some of the questions that that we've had specific to the battery products. Let's see, one question was about spare parts for EMP risk. We do have stock spare parts, and we also sell spare parts to customers and installers. So not all of our spare parts are available through the normal distribution chain, but for customers who want to buy extra BMSs or screens for emergency preparedness, we hear you loud and clear on that application, and that is something that is available through the Fortress web store. It's a little clunky to use. You know, we will update it. Our priority was just to get it launched and online so that you can have access to buying spare BMSs and screens. That's under the accessories section on our website. Tindy was asking for an application note for 20 eVault Maxes and Sol-Arks on parallel wiring. We're developing an application note for that. There are some bus bar rating considerations that you'll need. So either reach out to our tech support if you're in immediate need for that, or visit the application notes section on our website to read that when we bring it online. Another one asked, well, what happened to our LFP10 10 kilowatt hour battery? And you know, we do have the ability, just like with expanding existing eVault Classic installations, to make the LFP10. We are still making eVault Classics for system expansion, but they're just limited runs. So you need to plan eVault Classic expansions ahead of time. Reach out to your sales team for that. But with the LFP10, you know, it was our very first battery product. And, you know, while at the time when we released it a few years ago, it was a, oh man, there you go, Dustin. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
Okay. With the LFP10, it was a good battery for a couple of years ago, but it's a MOSFET based BMS, so really can only handle up to or really just under 100 amps per battery, and it's cylindrical cells, and you just have with cylindrical cell batteries you have 100 cells in the battery instead of just a dozen and a half. So there's more failure points on that battery, and the BMS isn't as capable. So in terms of supporting our future product line, we retired it. That said, we still support it with spare parts, warranty servicing, and the RMA process as well. So it's not abandoned, it's just retired. Let's see. Our batteries are rated for high elevations over 9,000 feet. For the exact number, email our tech support at techsupport@fortresspower.com. There's been some questions too about how to power a service panel with just one, say, Sol-Ark 12 kW. And I think the answer moving forward will be to get the Sol-Ark 15 kW because they've expanded the grid pass-through as a great feature for that. But if you only have budget for the Sol-Ark 12K and 2 E-flexes or 1 E-volt, and you want to supply the whole service panel, you would either have to look at a smart panel solution like Lumen or Span, and then maybe doing a automatic transfer switchover to supply the main, or alternately, and you can find some documentation on this in our Discord group. We have another solution which is very affordable, which is to not abandon the backup panel, but just put everything that needs to be automatically backed up on that backup panel still, and then put a generator interlock switch between the backup panel and the main. And that'll allow you to manually route power to any load on the service panel, but it'll also prevent you from, like, say, running the air conditioner automatically and losing power to your refrigerator in the process. So there are solutions, both low budget and high budget, manual versus automatic, to kind of manipulate your power. That said, with customer satisfaction, customers don't even understand what kilowatt hours or kilowatts are. They want whole house backup, and if you're not implementing those solutions, the way to deliver it reliably is to budget for the larger system. How do you get access to the Discord server? You go to our support page. So fortresspower.com/support. An invite to our Discord server is on that website. Dustin, one of the questions I don't want to get skipped is on the 12 kW. Do you know what the grid pass-through is?
It is 63 amps. So 63
Okay.
amps breaker built in on the 12K. So it's roughly 15 kilowatts per inverter.
Great. Do you want to take some of the questions that are Sol-Ark specific?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the questions is, and I kind of like this one from Mr. Gordeski. He asked, does the limitless 15K require an additional ATS? It does not. So one of the beneficial things about the 15K is by having that 200 amp bypass built into it, it does not need any external pieces of equipment in order to provide that. So we kind of keep the same standard as 3 AC outputs on the 15K. So we have the load side, we have the grid side, and we also have the generator side. By landing all of the loads or the entire main panel on the load side of the inverter, that allows for the 200 amp worth of pass through. And then on top of that, when the grid fails, we disconnect per UL 1741 compliance, and then we start providing power to that entire panel in 5 milliseconds. So there is no additional need for an ATS, which is really helpful because we can tie that in with all of the inverter lineup and without having to add additional equipment, especially in today's age. Where finding pieces of equipment, it can be kind of difficult. So we try to make it as simple as possible. And then let's see. So can you integrate into a building management system? Can I call for generator support in case the load is greater than the battery bank capacity can support? Okay, that's actually a really great question. So as far as the way we control generators, we are looking at different avenues. The current way we control generators is actually through the SOC of the battery. So we usually will have the batteries reach a specific set point. And then once it reaches that set point, that's when our communications or our two-wire start mechanism activates, and that's when we are turning on the generator. Obviously, this question does pop up quite a bit because we do understand, sometimes you can use the generator as kind of like a peak shaving kind of atmosphere or method to really kind of pick it up. I will be making that recommendation to our development team, especially, so that way, hopefully, that can be something integrated into the capabilities. But at least at this time, it is currently only based off the SoC of the batteries. Let's see. Can Sol-Ark output to an electric car to charge it? Yes, there is no problems there. At least if you're using a typical AC charger, that shouldn't be a problem. However, we are looking at different avenues to have that integrated into the system. We definitely see where the market is turning for EV cars and not really going to internal combustion engines. And we are looking at different avenues. So it's not something that I was able to produce there, but we are looking at different applications in order to have that integrated into the system. So really help lowering the equipment that you might need, especially in the support of EV chargers. Let's see, what else? So 15K, should you not include a double pole, double throw bypass switch as you have recommended for the 12K between the grid connections and the grid? That is correct. Yes, you do not need the bypass switch any longer. If it's a 200 amp service or less, by all means, you can land that directly on the inverter itself, and you do not need any type of bypass switch. We can put the system into bypass mode as well, so therefore, if the grid is available, if something, Lord forbid, we don't have any problems, but we can always do different configurations to make sure we can still support the system out to that 200 amps. Great questions. Let's see. Hopefully I didn't skip any. So may get covered late, but with the new microinverters, can we take that to mean that AC coupling to the 15K is more efficient than it is with the 12K, or is it the same? Are we better off using microinverters over doing home runs with the DC? So it really adds that extra flexibility. So Mr. Deloria, thank you for that question. So that it really adds the flexibility, and the way I look at it is this, and it's a really cool and I think a very feasible way of looking at it, is you can have your MPPT runs to the inverter, and that would be obviously the most effective way to get the most efficiency out of it, because we are DC transformerless. There's a lot of availability for efficiencies built in. But what the microinverters really add is really helps out with adding more panels, more AC output to the inverter without having to add an entire ESS system. So for instance, if you put up to 17 kilowatts of DC on the inverter itself, and then say, for instance, the 15,000 watts worth of AC output is not doable enough for you, you can add panels with the microinverters to increase that AC output, and we will not only increase the AC output during a grid tie atmosphere, but we also increase the AC output in an off-grid application as well. We will utilize what is called frequency shifting, control the AC output from those micros, and really help utilize it to meet the needs of the loads and what the batteries may call for. So thank you for that question. That's a really good question. And all while doing so, this is very helpful because it is a lot lower cost by adding PV and batteries, about 30% less cost. And that really adds that extra flexibility, again, by increasing the AC output at an easier method than adding an entire ESS system. Who is making the micros? We are. It is our product. It is not something that we did not acquire a different company or do anything like that. That is something that has been in development for the last 3 years. And with the successfulness and everything that we have seen with it, we wanted to bring it into our lineup. So it is our micros. It is not a third-party micro that we are rebranding. It is strictly Sol-Ark micros. So would the Sol-Ark EMP be considered shielded from emitting electrical signals? It does. There have been a few cases where, and we do provide equipment right out of the box to help eliminate any EMI that might happen. Electromagnetic interference is always something to be considerable because we do understand homeowners and people have certain kind of tendencies or kind of sensitivity to certain kind of frequencies. So we do have EMP shielding. There are the EMP system does help with EMI, but we do also provide external pieces of equipment for like the batteries and also for the MPPT inputs to help mitigate any EMI that might be happening. So we definitely take that into consideration for sure.
Dustin, I'm going to jump in. Ronald Harris has a kind of an open question of what is the current thinking on net metering 3.0 out in California from the perspective of Fortress and Sol-Ark. There's the Fortress obviously wants good for the solar industry. A healthy solar industry means a healthy battery industry, and we will support the solar installers in their movement to extend net metering 3.0 however we can, including being a CalCEA member and being signing petitions and going to the rallies out in Intersolar. We were there too. So we definitely support the installer, whether it's the contractor class issue, solar contractors in California, or net metering 3.0. Personally, I think that net metering is a very good societal policy. In fact, I think it's one of the better energy policies that we can have, despite some complications that are created by it being successful. I think some of the complications of too much solar on the grid are from utility scale solar rather than residential, despite the fact that there are certainly distribution circuits at the residential level that can be overloaded. So I think batteries do play a part in the discussion. And personally, I think what is overlooked in the whole net metering debate is that net metering does impact solar design in a way that solar design would not be carried if net metering did not exist. Yes, net metering is a subsidy. Even if it's a good subsidy, it is a subsidy, and it impacts what free market solar design would be without net metering. I think one of the biggest oversights in the industry is that now with lithium-ion batteries and affordable battery inverters, you don't just install a solar site that covers the whole roof with solar. The project is really something that needs to focus on what the customer actually wants, which is backup power. I mean, backup power in a low electric bill is not necessarily the same as zeroing out your electric bill, which is the goal of net metering. And so what is overlooked is often time of use sites, especially where there's meaningful time of use, where it's not just a 6-cent differential between peak and off peak, but the differential is like 14 cents difference or more. So if you have access to meaningful time of use rates, that can result in as good of a payback, and in some cases for customers not in California who don't have net metering, a better payback than what they get with their grid buyback rates. And so I used to be a solar installer, and I know that to get that cover the roof with solar project size that you need to make a project, you can start selecting some pretty gnarly roof surfaces. Instead, with a battery bank and a battery inverter, you could put just a 4 kilowatt or 6 kilowatt solar array just on the garage, just on the easiest to access roof surface. Whereas in the past, or even a no solar installation, we have that too. So in the past, a solar installer would reject project sites because the sites were not large enough for net metered solar economics to make sense. And with batteries, you can now install on those same sites that you would pass over prior to the advent of lithium iron phosphate batteries. So while we support the extension of net metering 3.0, I would challenge solar installers to think a little bit more creatively about their designs and make sure that they're not leaving money on the table by overlooking, a smaller but easier solar job site and making the budget that you all want as installers up on nice sized battery systems and battery components that are really more in line with what these customers want. I mean, yeah, we can tell them, oh, it's a 4-year payback or a 6-year payback because you've hit the lottery on net metering and subsidies, but those opportunities get fewer and further between as time goes by. And what customers really want is who have the money to buy these systems, what they really want is a low electric bill and backup power. They're not as sensitive to simple payback as what the net metered kind of blinders would otherwise lead you to believe. We do make recordings of the presentations available on our YouTube channel. I know Fortress, we put our slideshows in our Discord group. Dustin, if you want to provide your slides, we do have a section on Sol-Ark trainings that we run with you guys, and we're happy to put those slides into our Sol-Ark section of our Discord group.
Yeah, so I do want to point out one thing as well. As far as trainings and everything like that, we do have a lot of these like co-branded ones, especially graciously enough for Fortress to have me on board. So thank you so much, John, and everybody at the Fortress side. We are ramping up our own public webinars as well. So we do have a link on our website that has all of the lists of public webinars that we are going to be having, especially in the Q1 of this year. And then we'll be doing that further on as we look into Q2, 3, and 4. So if you want to get more information, or really if we missed your questions, please don't hesitate. I did drop my my email, or if you want my email, I'm more than happy to share it with you. I'm always happy to answer any questions and really get those, get anything across that we can and really make you feel comfortable with using the Sol-Ark lineup. So anything we can do. One question I do want to talk about real quick, because I think it's probably something that is very popular, especially nowadays, especially in the EV world, is Mr. Alias dropped a question is, will Sol-Ark support using Ford F-150 Lightning as a battery? Especially as we start looking into the future, EV cars and EV chargers are always going to be predominant. I know in the Northwest and kind of on the West Coast, they're already saying by like 2025 or 2030, there is no more ability to purchase internal combustion engines. It's only EVs. And so when we look at that kind of legislation, and especially market as it starts to trend upwards, we want to be mindful of it. So we are looking at different avenues, especially for E2G or E2H, whichever way you want to look at it, which is just so that way we can utilize the electric vehicle or the batteries on board of it to help power the home and use it, because you have one that's a pretty giant one on wheels. So we want to be able to use it as much as we can. So that was a great question. Let's see. Is there string level rapid shutdown solutions for Sol-Ark string inverters? If you're referring to like an AC coupled solution, the string inverter should have that already built in. However, for our string inverters, we do have that same kind of concept built into it. But if you are looking for like a rapid shutdown solution for string level, we have a couple of them lined up in our manual. However, we have heard that some of those options are starting to be discontinued, especially as a lot of states are moving into panel level or module level rapid shutdown. But really, when it comes to the Sol-Ark, you can use any rapid shutdown on the market. There's not really a limitation. It's just a matter of finding one that fits the needs and the rules and regulations in your area. So thank you for that question. Looks like that came from Mr. Thiessen. Thank you for that question.
I'm going to run through a couple of questions too, Dustin, if you want to shoot off some text answers lower down the list. There was a little bit of confusion over the 1-to-1 Sol-Ark ratios. That is regarding minimum battery bank sizing, which in technical support, that's one of our hardest and common discussions that we have with installers is what is the minimum battery bank sizing. You're more than welcome to exceed the minimum battery bank sizing, 2 Fortress eVault Maxes with 1 Sol-Ark, 20 Fortress eVault Maxes with 1 Sol-Ark, 3 eFlexes, 4 eFlexes with a Sol-Ark. It's just the minimum is 2 eFlexes to 1 Sol-Ark or 1 eVault Max to 1 Sol-Ark. And it's not just a matter of the programmable settings to not exceed the amperage capacity of the batteries, although usually if you're making a minimum battery sizing mistake, you haven't done your homework for checking the amps provided by the batteries and the amps required by the inverters to run at full power. It's also just the startup capabilities of the cars. It's like saying, you know, I would normally be riding my golf cart around the golf course, but instead I'm going to take my Maserati on the golf course. You know, it's the capacitors inside the Sol-Ark, in order to make it 12 kW or 15 kW, are sized for, you know, appropriately sized. And so when you put too small a battery on too large of an inverter, that's only one instance of where things can go wrong in regards to startup or inrush capability. Also, just the power requirements of the inverter and the battery itself. You put too large a power electronics on too small a battery capacity, you won't actually have the battery capacity that you need for the application. So if you adhere to the minimum battery bank sizes, you will have much more satisfied customers. And if you can't adhere to the minimum battery bank sizes, then you probably need to look for a smaller inverter, or even, you know, regrettably, a lead acid solution if your budget can't push you over into the lithium iron phosphate market. And we'll still be here, you know, 5 years down the line when your lead acid is ready to retire, and at that point you might be able to move into lithium iron. So, you know, don't shortcut the minimum battery bank sizes just because of budgetary issues. Talk with us, and we will recommend the right path forward to you on your project. Can I get the eSpire commercial battery in Europe? That is really a sales question that I'm not well familiar with the answer on. I think that our initial release for the eSpire is we're targeting the markets that are closer to home, such as the United States, Puerto Rico, Mexico, Central America. For Europe, I'm sure we will distribute the batteries there, but you will also have to check with our sales reps on when they will be available. As far as budgetary pricing goes, that's another, we do have it available. I just don't want to give you the wrong information, then upload this to YouTube and give thousands of people the wrong information either. So reach out to sales@fortresspower.com as the email address, sales@fortresspower.com, and they'll be able to get you budgetary pricing. Let's see, other points of discussion we may have to follow up after class on. Dustin, do you have anything else to add?
No, I do want to at least make sure everybody at least has a way to get in contact with us. So again, my name is Dustin. If you email Dustin at sol-ark.com, that'll get to me directly. And I'm not sure if I can just drop that in the chat or anything, but if we can, that would be awesome. Because if I miss your questions, I would hate to, you know, not get those squared away. By all means, shoot me over an email or give me a call. I'm always happy to help. I love talking about the application side of the inverter systems and really making sure that we can size something appropriately for you. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to help you, and our 7-day-a-week tech support is here to support you all the way.
Yeah, so if you didn't get that, it's just Dustin at sol-ark.com. Dustin, I think when it went into the chat, it went into a private chat, not the whole group.
Yes, sir, I do believe so. You are correct. Let me, is there a way I gotcha. Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Trying to keep up with all these different kind of platforms. It's interesting.
Yeah, it is. Can multiple inverters on different utilities share a battery bank? I mean, yes, but it's difficult. I mean, that's you'll need to contact our engineering department for that. Adding capacity down the road, we really only want you to add capacity within the first year. So if you plan on adding capacity, then what we want you to do is plan on it and use that tax credit money to buy the batteries that you need to expand the batteries in the first year. Otherwise, just the age of the battery creates a mismatch that is not great for battery longevity. And maybe future, you know, when we have a 2023 or 2024 roadmap, there'll be some solutions for that. But this is just the 2022 advice. NABCEP credit, William, this one is a product promotion webinar. It's not available for NABCEP credit, but we do have NABCEP credit classes available on demand that you can take within our Discord group. And I think Sol-Ark might have some NABCEP classes available as well. Does Sol-Ark have a Discord channel? No, I don't think they do. This is just something that we've done because it's fun, and sometimes text messaging saves time compared to phone conversations.
Well, I will like to jump in there. We are developing our own Discord channel here in the next few weeks. So we are going to have that Discord channel. So you are going to have full access to myself and the team, and we will get you squared away just the same way in terms of Discord.
That is going to allow our tech support and your tech support team to do some magical things when you all get on Discord as well. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it is something that we're really happy about. So any way we can answer questions.
All right. Will a Sol-Ark 15kW have a rapid shutdown transmitter built into it?
It will not, at least at this time. We are looking at different avenues for that PLC communications for the rapid shutdown, but at this time it is still something that is third party. But we just want to make sure we meet all the different codes in different areas, and you might have local rules or you might have state rules. So, but we are open-minded to that, and we always want to be able to support those adventures.
Lorenzo, for off-grid systems and the federal tax credit, yes, I believe they do qualify, but what I would say is you probably have to make sure that it is an actual home-sized array, not just a 3 kW inverter with a battery. You might need to document that the off-grid system is actually on a home, and that definition of the home, many accountants will probably not consider a tiny house or an RV in the same way they would, 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house with some sort of insurance policy on it. So without offering actual tax advice, that is the line of thinking that I would pursue in answering that question. With that, guys, y'all have been great audiences, really good questions. If you don't have questions that have answers to them, you know how to follow up with us. We look forward from hearing from you. Thanks, Dustin, for participating, and look forward to doing more webinars with you like this in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you all again for the opportunity, and by all means, blow up my phone, blow up my email address. I'm more than happy to take care of you, and we look forward to getting you squared away. Thank you, guys.
All right.